You're listening to the Blind Tiger Record Club podcast, where we champion music of all genres, and we believe vinyl is king.
For a dying man, I feel pretty good, I feel pretty good. For a righteous man, I'll do what I should, do what I should. For a fallen man, I'll get up again, I'll get up again. For a dying man, I feel pretty good. Oh, we're born to trouble as the sparks fly high, born to trouble as the sparks fly. It's alright, in the light, I see you glowing, it's alright, in the light, I see you glowing.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Blind Tiger Record Club on air, sponsored by World Vision. I'm David Williams, and I'm here with the show's co-host, Rudy Newman.
Hey, everybody.
And we also have a special guest in the studio with us for this show, Thad Cockrell.
What's up, everyone?
Thad, thanks for joining us. I should just go ahead and mention at the outset that we had you on a few months ago to talk about your record.
Yeah.
And it's a great record.
Thank
we
you.
liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe more than you.
Judging by the way our best of turned out.
Well, we hope everyone had an amazing Christmas. It's hard to believe that this is it for 2020. I mean, this is it for this season of Blind Tiger Record Club, both on air and for season 3 of the B.T.R.C podcast. So we're ending our show for the year here on Lightning 100 the same way we do every year on the podcast with our best of episode. So real quick, I just wanted to tell everybody kind of how it works. The B.T.R.C staff prepared a pretty exhaustive list. We had between 60 and 100 albums from the current year. And the main rule that we followed when creating our best of list, they're pretty simple. It had to be released on vinyl this calendar year. It had to be available in the U.S. And it needs to be something that we would carry in the store or curate for the club. So, you know, since we champion music of all genres, it's still a pretty big net that we cast for the first round of voting.
Yeah.
We then vote. We narrow that down to a top 30 albums of the year. And then we invite others to join us. And Thad was one of the ones that we invited to join us to do that voting.
And I hear I kicked my own record out.
That's what I was going to say. We narrowed it down to 20, and Thad's record before he voted was, I think, in the high teens, but it was on the top 20, and we were going to talk about it on the show. And then when he got finished voting, it was out of the top 20.
Well, I'll tell you what happened is I was thinking if I vote number 1, I get kicked out of the club. And if I don't vote, it gets kicked out of the club. Either way, you guys have set me up for not a win-win, a lose-lose. And I want to say thank you for that.
Well, I do mention in all seriousness, you should really check out his album. We did love it.
Thank you.
And check out the interview that we did with him. It's at the podcast is pretty much on every platform from Apple to Spotify. So check that out. It's a great. We did get in pretty deep on the record. Talk about a lot of songs off the album. So it's definitely worth checking out and listening to.
If in case you like listening to good music. Wink, wink, wink.
I see what you did there. Yeah.
Yep. So on tonight's show, due to time constraints, we're going to present for you, our listening audience, for your pleasure, the top 10 from our best of list. So if you want to hear the entire countdown from 20 to 1, then go to Blind Tiger Record Club podcast. It'll be available December 31st. Part 1 will go live, and then Part 2 will go live January 1st. So make sure you check that out, and remember that most of the albums that you hear tonight, almost all of them, they're available at blindtigerrecordclub.com. We also just launched our January Records of the Month, so we have an amazing reissue of Jim Croce's You Don't Mess Around with Jim as our singer-songwriter album. For our Rock and Alternative Record of the Month, we have the White Stripes' first ever official anthology. It's their greatest hits. We have the Dan Auerbach produced Aaron Fraser's new album, Introducing. And our Classic Rock Record of the Month is the 50th anniversary reissue and newly mastered album by the Kinks, Lola vs. Power Man, and the Money Go Round. So it's a really great month to join, and just make sure you secure your copy of one of these albums. So go join today. All right, Rudy and Thad, let's get to the countdown. Let's drop the needle, take a quick listen to the Blind Tiger Record Club's best vinyl of 2020.
I guess we're leaving town again. We're moving out and moving in. Gotta break the news to all my friends, but they won't care. They'll just find another face to fall behind, to take my place, to run way past second base and just stand there. A dreamsicle on a summer night in a folding lawn chair. Witches ring around the moon, better get home soon.
Well, coming in at number 10, we have Jason Isbell and the 400 Unit and their album Reunions. This is their 7th studio album, and it was released May 15th. This is actually the 4th album that he's done with the 400 Unit, which obviously includes his wife, Amanda Shires. You know, this was our Rock and Alternative Record of the Month in June. And it's a pretty solid, another solid album from Isbell.
Absolutely, yeah. Feels like it was a lot longer ago in the year that this was released. It was an excellent one.
Well, it peaked at number 1 on Billboard Country, Folk, and Rock album charts. It was number 9 on the Billboard 200, and it was number 18 in the UK's OCC. So, you know, he's one of those artists, I think him and like Randy Carlisle and a few others that do really well in the Americana circles over here. They do really well over in London.
Yeah.
You know, the first single was Be Afraid. It did chart at AAA radio. But one of the songs I thought that we would play, it's one of the softer moments on the record. It's a song called Only Children.
Walking around at night, fighting my appetite. Every kid in cutoffs could be you. Remember when we used to meet at the bottom of Mobile Street and do what the broken people do? Are you still taking notes? The Holy Ghost could get inside you. You do whatever you put your mind to. Will you read me what you wrote when we were locked outside the building, over encouraged only children?
So this album was produced by Dave Cobb. He's kind of done a little bit in that camp with Jason Isbell.
Yeah, and he's our golden boy here in the office.
Yeah, you mean Dave Cobb?
Dave Cobb, not Jason. Yeah.
I mean, nothing against Jason Isbell,
No.
but yeah, Dave. We talk about Dave Cobb probably more than any other producer.
Yeah, he's a part of a lot of albums that I've really enjoyed over the last quite a few years.
6 years now. Yeah, like going on.
Yeah. Well, you know, this album received very well critically. It's on 13 end of year list. And some of them it's gone pretty high, like on Consequence of Sound, it's at number 11. Paste has it at number 12. It's number 25 at Pop Matters. And so, you know, I think Uncut had it at number 11. It's just if you enjoy Jason Isbell, this is another solid release from him. And, you know, just his combination with Dave Cobb, I think makes it definitely an album you need to check out. So our number 9 album this year is Tame Impala and the Slow Rush. You know, this is their 4th studio album. This band, you know, is from Australia. They released this February 14th. and Tame Impala, if you're out there listening and you don't know much about this band, it's really one guy. This is all Kevin Parker.
Right.
He writes, records, produces.
He's a one-man band.
Yeah, I mean, literally. I mean, when you look at the credits, you see like the mastering guys. Like, there's
he
nobody
mixes
else.
it too.
Yeah, that's what I
Kevin
said. There's
Parker.
nothing. There's nothing else. It's just Kevin Parker.
Who played all
and-
the instruments? Kevin Parker.
Right.
Which normally does not work at all.
Really? Like
No.
from a recording standpoint?
It doesn't, because it folds over on itself a
Yeah.
little too much,
I
right?
get that.
I mean, this is my favorite album of the year. You know, it's interesting to see some dude in Australia
In his
bend
home studio.
bend the world to him, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
The music world has bent to him.
Yes.
And you know, he's had a huge influence. I mean,
since Currents.
yeah, the Weeknd. I mean, even like in hip hop, like I listen to a lot of hip hop right now, and I'm like, these dudes have been listening to Tame Impala,
Yeah.
right? I even think like Post Malone,
Yes.
that song Circles.
Yep.
There is Tame Impala's influence in
All
that
over
in
that
that,
beat.
in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
record, right? So I'm a huge fan, and his songwriting's actually really great.
Well, this album,
lyrically.
this album is definitely, getting received very well. It peaked at number 3 on Billboard 200. It was number 1 on both alternative and rock album charts. It was
you
number
go.
3 on the UK's OCC. I mean, of course, it was number 1 in Australia on the ARIA album chart.
Yeah.
The song that we played at the opening was Borderline, and that was the first single that they released off this album. It went number 3 on rock and alternative. The big single off this album, though, was a song called Lost in Yesterday. It went number 1 on AAA and number 2 on alternative and number 2 on rock.
When we were living in squalor, wasn't it heaven? Back when we used to get on it 4 out of 7. Now even though that was the time I hated from day one. Eventually terrible memories turn into great ones. So if they call you, embrace them. If they hold you, erase them. 'Cause it might have been something, who's to say? Does it help to get lost in yesterday? And you might have missed something, don't say, 'cause it has to be lost in yesterday. You're gonna have to let it go someday. You can pick it up like Groundhog Day. 'Cause it might have been something, don't say, 'cause it has to be lost in yesterday.
Yeah, this album is nominated for a Grammy for Best Alternative Music Album. And the ARIA charts of music awards have already happened. And I mean, he won 5 categories, including Album of the Year. So, I mean, he did really well in Australia. It's also on a lot of end-of-year lists. Like, by my count, there's about 21 end-of-year lists in editorial, writings that cover this record. And it's pretty high on some of them. NME in Europe has it at 16. Spin had it at number 8. Uncut had it at number 13.
Complex has it at number 2.
Yeah, it's even number 27 at Billboard.
Yeah.
So
The gem on that record, as far as songs goes, is "Breathe Deeper." It is a jam.
The one.
It's the one. it's really good.
Neath the crown of mongrel trees, I pulled that bothersome thread. Got down on my knees, grabbed my pen and bowed my head. Tried to summon all that my heart finds true and send it in my letter to you. Things I found out through hard times and good, I wrote them all out in ink and blood.
So our number 8 album is Bruce Springsteen, Letter to You. This is his 20th studio album, and it was released October 23rd, and we did a show on this album. This was my favorite album of the year. I mean, obviously I come from a generation that grew up with Bruce Springsteen, but for me, this album, you know, it had some tough competition, but this was my favorite of the year. You know, this is his first album with his backing band, the E Street Band, since the release of High Hopes in 2014.
Yep.
Letter to You debuted at number 1 on current album sales, vinyl albums, top rock albums, tastemaker albums, Americana folk albums. It was number 2 on the Billboard 200. It's number 1 in the OCC. So, I mean, it was just sitting right at the top of like pretty much every chart for album release week. The first single off this album is the album's title track, Letter to You, that we played in the opening segment. It went to number 1 at AAA radio. And I mentioned this when we talked about this, you know, earlier on another episode when we talked about this album, but this, I just think it's an interesting fact. It's been 18 years since his last number 1 at AAA radio, and AAA radio is only 24 years old. So this is literally the longest.
What was that last song?
I don't remember. I think I don't remember now. But it's the longest gap between number 1s in the AAA history.
Wow.
So
no one better to hold the record.
Yeah, you know, it also went number 28 at Rock Airplay. It was number 34 at Hot Rock and Alternative Songs. The second single that he released to retail was a song called Ghost. You know, and this is that most of this album is kind of paying homage to all the people he's created music with since '72.
Yeah.
And this song in particular is just kind of like, you know, presenting that idea that he still hears them in almost every note that he plays today.
I hear the sound of your guitar coming from the mystic far, stone and the gravel in your voice, come in my dreams and I rejoice. It's your ghost moving through the night, spirit filled with light. I need you by my side. Your love and I alive. I can feel the blood shiver in my bones. I'm alive, and I'm out here on my own. I'm alive, and I'm coming home. Old buckskin jacket you always wore.
So while that song was playing, we looked up the answer to that question of which song was the last number 1, and it was The Rising.
Yes.
Which, Thad, you can sing every note of that song, right?
I can probably.
He did while we were researching.
That's right. You know, this album was recorded live in the studio, no demos. And, you know, I mentioned this last time too. I mean, if you've seen any of the multiple documentaries about how Bruce Springsteen records, like, I mean, it's like over-recording, you know, just like demo after demo. I mean, his demos sound like some people's master
They're
tracks.
ready to go.
This is the first time in the history of Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band that they just went in and cut live in the studio.
And you hear it. That energy is what really is what comes out of the speakers, is that you hear a bunch of guys that have been become incredibly, you know, they've worked on their craft so much, but so you're hearing all of that, and then also just their humanity coming through all of it. It's really great.
Well, as Springsteen mentioned that, you know, he talked about how just creating music with these guys for so long hasn't put them at a place where they can record in a different way. You know, they absolutely can anticipate each other. Yeah, and all that. And so, So they recorded this at Springsteen's home over about a 5-day period. Ron Anelio produced it. He's produced multiple Springsteen albums. This is on about 10 end-of-year editorial list, but it's been pretty high. AP had it at number 6. Rolling Stone had it at number 12. But most importantly, I have it at number 1, and I think that's what we all
You're
need.
number 1.
Yeah. So it's a great record. If you haven't heard it, you definitely need to check it out. Both the podcast and on air are sponsored by World Vision, and we are so blessed to partner with them on COVID relief efforts. Right now, World Vision is really focused on issues coming from the COVID pandemic, which include hunger, violence, and poverty. As bad as things may seem in 2020, many of us are still extremely blessed. Sadly, however, there are those among us and abroad that desperately need help. The hidden heroes are rising up, helping the most vulnerable to survive, recover, and build a better future. When you are looking for a way to help, you want to look for organizations that can really make a difference. World Vision has been doing this for 70 years all over the globe. It's the perfect way for someone to play a significant role in something bigger. All of you out there listening can be a hidden hero. Go to blindtackerrecordclub.com and click on the World Vision tab at the top of the page. Donate today. If you give, let your friends know that you are fighting the impact of COVID. Tell them you stepped up and they can too. Use hashtag Hidden Hero to share your encouragement. Ordinary people can come together and do extraordinary things. Be a hidden hero today.
I'm blessed, got another day to breathe. I'm blessed, good health, family. Remind myself that each and every day I'm blessed. Well, the road rolls out like a welcome mat to a better place than the one we're at. And I ain't got no kind of plan that I've had all of this town I can stand. And I got friends out on the coast. We can jump in the water and see what flows. We've been saving for a rainy day. Let's beat the storm and be on our way. And it don't matter to me wherever we are, where I wanna be. And honey, for once in our lives, let's take our chances and roll the dice. I can be your lucky penny, you can be my four-leaf clover, starting over.
So coming in at number 7, we have Chris Stapleton's new record, Starting Over. It's his 4th studio album. It released November 13th, and this is actually our singer-songwriter record of the month just this past month in December. The album peaked at number 3 on Billboard 200. It was number 1 on country. I think it's a phenomenal album. It's just another great...
We can't tell if Thad likes it, though. That's been the question, I feel like.
I had a hard time not. It was between that and Tame Impala for my number 1 album, and I went to it because the most listened to. I literally went and I chose the one that I listened to. Had this record come out maybe 2 months prior, I would have.
You would have been listening to it longer.
Yeah, I would have
or
listened.
more.
I would have listened to it more.
Yeah.
It is wildly good.
I think
And
it's funny your top 2 choices were Tame Impala and Chris Stapleton.
Right.
Which is awesome.
right,
Yeah.
and
Just funny.
I would say that that the sound of the record needs applauded as much as anything. I mean, Vance Powell and the engineers on this thing did an incredible job. When he comes in, when that voice comes in on Arkansas, it is I don't know how to explain. I would say it this way, that if anybody doesn't appreciate it, then what is it? Like closeness breeds contempt, you know?
Yeah.
He makes it look so easy, and the songwriting on this is so good. But believe me, he is hitting a hole-in-one on a par 5.
Yeah.
And he makes it look so
Dad.
easy that you don't realize just what it is that he's doing to write songs that good, to sing them that well, and then the production. That band is like dialed.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't have anything to add.
well,
That's it.
We talk about this a lot when we bring up Dave Cobb. His production style with other artists he works with beyond Chris Stapleton, even though he's just so connected to Stapleton, because both of them kind of Chris Stapleton's
together.
ascension, led to Dave Cobb's ascension,
Right.
and all the records and stuff that he's been putting out.
Right.
But he's just so great at making the vocals warm and out in front, and kind of like it's
Treating
the
it like
focus of all of Cobb's albums that he produces.
Yeah, but like the thing is though, is there's atmosphere around his voice, right?
And
Which goes back to an engineering thing, and it's a mixing thing, and it's a it's all of it thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because a lot of times with modern music, the vocals out front, but it's so far out front that you feel like the people are like 100 feet behind him on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
And
great way to
it's
describe
in
it.
front, but he's surrounded by all this incredible music.
And the warmth.
Yeah.
Of the recording.
Well, the first single is the song that we played at the opening. It's called Starting Over. It peaked at number 7 on Hot Country. It was number 33 on Rolling Stone's top songs, and it was number 25 on the Hot 100. The next single off this record was a song called Cold. It peaked at number 9 on AAA and number 31 on Hot Country.
Girl, the way you broke my heart, shattered like a rock through a window. I thought we had it so good, never really saw this coming. Oh, why you got to be so cold? Why you got to go and cut me like a knife? Put our love on ice. Oh, girl, you know you left this hole right here in the middle of my soul. Oh, why you got to be so cold?
That's what I like to call sexy Chris Stapleton right there.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Well, one thing we haven't mentioned yet on this show is that along with the incredible cast of regular players that he has, his regular band's on here, his wife,
Yep.
Morgan is doing most of the background vocals. But also on this album, we've got Mike Campbell and Ben Montench from the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Yep.
They appear on several songs on this record. They even co-write some of the songs. And so they're, definitely a part of the sound of this record.
I would say for me that the song on this album is You Should Probably Leave. If you want a master's class in songwriting, listen to that thing. It is wild.
Ashley Gorley's on that one. Mr. Nashville Songwriter of the Year every year for like pop country.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this was on about 6 end-of-year list. It was number 13 on Billboard. It was number 44 on Rolling Stone. So, as we said, this came out in December. So, like to your point, even Thad, about not having a lot of time to really spend with this before probably some of these lists were already written, around the time
Right.
When this record
Yeah.
came out. I think I said December. It came out in November. But
we featured it.
yeah,
in our club in
but
December.
it just hasn't had a lot of time to really gain a lot of traction. But this is definitely one of the top records of 2020. If you haven't heard it, you need to check it out.
Getting dressed for a date, put on blue aftershave, wore a kilt like a Celt, hid the way that I felt. Combat boots, fallen leaves, West Village, Halloween, till Bollywood song, taking shots till we're gone, unwelcome in the autumn, persona non grata, I'm the last of the best. I'm your thoughts in the swamp. There's a playground of children in the shadows of buildings. There's a line out to church where your homelessness works, where the stained glass of crimson meets Ezekiel's visions. Saw a valley of bones where no man shall be saved. And now you come to me asking that. And now you come to me and you're asking that. Oh, how can we reconcile?
So coming in at number 6 is Bright Eyes' album, Down in the Weeds Where the World Once Was.
Ooh.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
This is their 10th album. It released on August 21st, and this was our rock and alternative record of the month in September.
This might be their 10th album, but this is like the 900th song that Conor Oberst has written, I'm pretty sure.
Maybe more like Down in the Weeds Where the World Still Is.
Yeah, right now. Thad, can you be on every podcast?
Hey, it's Christmas, man. We just finished Christmas.
Yeah, dude.
Somebody's got to be the hill.
This is their first album in almost a decade. I think it was 2011
That's
when
what
their
I'm
last
saying.
record came
They've
out.
been writing music since, but
Well,
not.
and we talked about this in the last podcast. Bright Eyes is made up of Conor Oberst, Mike Mogus, and Nate Walcott.
Yep.
And all of them have been so busy over the last decade doing other things, whether it's, we even had Phoebe Bridgers.
Better Oblivion Community Center.
the indie project that she did with Conor Oberst. But he's done, I think, 3 solo records. He's produced and been on other projects. Mike Mogus has been mainly producing and mixing. I mean, he's and performing on albums. I mean, from everyone from Justin Townes, Earl, the Phoebe Bridgers record, M Ward, Joseph's, the album we covered last year. Kind of surprised us last year.
Joseph? That album is
phenomenal.
Unbelievable.
And we missed it. We missed it, and it bit us because we just thought it was another Joseph album. And then,
no, man, it's in my top. It's in my top 10 albums from last year.
Yeah, it was on. It was on our top 10, but it was a late ad, and we kind of wore a bag of shame.
I think everyone slept on that one.
Yeah, and then Nate Walcott, he's been just studio work on tons of projects like Portugal the Man, Dawes. He's a touring musician with U2, Red Hot Chili Peppers, just a lot. Yeah, so they've stayed super busy, but have not
they should
done.
Stay super busy, personally.
Yeah.
Well, so Thad's not a huge fan of this record, but this is why we vote.
Yeah.
And
Committee, baby.
This album peaked at number 36 on the Billboard 200. It was number 22 on the OCC. The first single that they released to set up this album is a track called Persona Non Grata, and that's what we played at the opening.
Sad Little Dirge.
Yeah, I love that song. The radio single was a song called Mariana Trench, and that one peaked at number 24 on AAA. I actually think it's definitely one of the strongest songs on the record.
Well, they better save some space for me in that growing cottage industry where selfishness is currency. People spend more than they make. So I wrap my head in bandages from a string of happy accidents. I guess maybe I asked for it, but who am I to say? The closing bell, death tolls, hear the market crash. A crying trader swears he'll get out of the game. The cowboy drinks himself to death fresh out of rehab, while they're loading all the rifles on the range. Look up at that Everest, look down in that Mariana Trench. Look now as the crumbling 4-5 falls down, and when the big one hits, look out for the plain clothes, look out for what the wild tap knows. Look out on the ever-widening money trap and where it goes.
So Thad, here's something you will appreciate about them. It's all self-produced.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I'm a big fan of everything they work on.
Yeah.
That's the sweetest thing that he could say.
I'm
a big fan of all the projects they work on.
Well, this album in particular, it's probably the most collaborative of all the albums that they've put out.
Yeah.
Oh,
even
my God.
though
The credits list was long.
Yeah, I mean, there's 40 players on here because they've got strings and things like that. But the band themselves, the members of Bright Eyes, like Conor Oberst still did most of the lyrics, but as far as crafting the actual songs, this is literally, because in the past, like Conor Oberst would come in and be like, hey, here's the songs, let's record them.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, in some sense, this is really the most Bright Eyes album that Bright Eyes has put out.
Good for them.
Well, you know, this album was on about 6 end-of-year list. It was number 12 on the 45. It was at number 40 on Slant, and it was at number 45 on Uncut, just to spotlight a couple of bigger ones.
That's what I wanted. It's not as if we cry a river, call it rain. West Memphis is on fire in the light of day. Give me something, it ain't enough. It ain't enough. I take it for granted. If I could love you unconditionally, I could iron out the edges of the darkest sky. For some of us, it ain't enough. It ain't enough. And I take off driving past places been tainted. I put on a good show for you. And when I
So coming in at number 5 is Waxahachie and the new record St. Cloud.
Coming in hot.
Yeah, so this is the 5th studio release. It came out on March 27th. We missed it. I'm going to go ahead and fess up.
Yeah.
I ordered this record. It didn't come in. And I originally was considering it for record of the month, but I just hadn't dug in and spent a lot of time with it. We carry every Waxahachie project, and I just thought I knew who Waxahachie was. I didn't really spend a lot of time with this record, and I missed it. I did the same thing with Joseph last year, which you had a cut on.
Yeah.
And then when we finally caught up with it, we were like, this is one of the best records of the year, and it
Yeah.
sure enough was in our top 10.
Take the song that I wrote with them off. It's
See,
still.
why do you keep voting yourself out?
Yeah.
Man, why?
I want to remove my so that
Sure.
when I talk
So you-
about
yeah,
it,
so you can
it
be
sounds
objective. So-
unbiased.
yeah.
The songs on that album are absolutely incredible, and it's not too late for people to go back and listen.
Yes,
to it.
definitely.
It's really
Definitely.
special.
It's definitely not too late.
Yeah.
But Waxahachie for me was a very similar experience because I thought I knew I just was like, we know what this is. I'm sure it's good, but I just wasn't ready for it to be this good.
You know what I think they did is I think they put some pieces together in a way that nobody else has. I love that they did not touch her vocal with any auto-tune or
Auto-tuning.
fixing.
Yeah.
Because I think ultimately what happens is when you auto-tune, you erase trust. And
You
we're-
erase, not originality.
we're
but
connected by our faults, not
Authenticity,
our strengths, right? So and whatever is authentic is also has to do with whatever things that we might not
the imperfections.
right?
Yeah.
I think what struck a chord about this is kind of what made, and this goes way back to what made people really crazy about Whiskey Town, is that they were taking rock and country and they put the pieces together in a way that connected in a modern element or in a modern way context. And I think that they did that the same. There's a hip hop fan in this band or in the production someplace because there's some electronic stuff that's
Yeah.
really low in the mix, but it really adds. There's that yin and yang
Yep.
of like the humanity of her voice and some other stuff that's going on. I'm
Well,
a
I
huge
think
fan.
I think too, and I think it's worth mentioning. I mean, if you listen to our top 10, especially if you listen to the podcast and catch all 20 of our top releases, you're going to see a lot of what's considered indie rock in the top albums this year. And I don't know if it's just because of
Indie rock was
COVID
better
and
than all the other-
maybe like it wasn't as many releases come. I don't know why, but
Yeah,
I just
a
feel
lot
that
less
like there's so
mainstream.
much indie rock that critically is kind of being looked at this year that, a lot of times you'll see them on end of year lists and reviewers and critics pay attention,
Yeah.
but maybe they don't catch on as much, with
Yeah.
with the people, but I feel like this year,
Been a little more propped up.
yeah. So the album, it peaked at 140 on Billboard 200, but it was number 2 on folk. It was number 6 on alternative. It was number 19 on rock. And in the UK, on the AOCC, it was number 7. The radio single is a song called Lilacs, and it peaked at number 26 on AAA.
I wake up feeling nothing, camouflage the wavering sky. I sit at my piano, wander the wild rip by. And the lilacs drank the water, and the lilacs died. And the lilacs drank the water, marking the slow, slow, slow passing of time. I get so angry, baby, at something you might say. I dream about an awful stranger, work my way through the day. I run it like a silent movie, I run it like a violent song, run it like a voice compelling, so right it can't be wrong. If I'm a broken record, write it in the dustbin. I fill myself back up like I used to do. And if my bones are made of delicate sugar, I won't end up anywhere good without you.
You know, this album was produced by Brad Cook. We talked about him a little bit earlier this year when we talked about
North Carolina guy.
yeah, he is. I
There we
thought
go.
you would know him.
Oh, yeah.
Because, yeah. You know, he produced Brent Cobb's "Keep 'Em on Their Toes," which
There we go.
Yeah, it was our spotlight album a couple months ago.
I was
and
needing a
a
refresher.
Well, he also was one of the producers on "I" by Bon Iver. So,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I mean, he has several other indie rock acts, so it kind of plays into this whole indie rock thing we're talking about. But like, he did his Golden Messenger.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's produced a lot of, like,
Which
you know,
North Carolina guy.
really good artists.
Yeah, I've known Brad a long time, and you know, before Bon Iver was Bon Iver, he and Bon Iver had a band together. Well, it was the two Cook brothers, Megaphone. And we all started playing shows kind of at the. I started playing music at the same time that Megaphone was started playing shows, and both Cook brothers are immensely talented.
Yeah, that's amazing. This album was on a lot of end of year list, 31 by my count, and it was pretty high on some. Like Consequence of Sound had it at number 6, Pace Magazine had it at number 2. Pitchfork
nice.
had it at number 2, which, I mean, that's
Yeah.
we talk about this sometimes, but when you see like a convergence between magazines or editorials like Pitchfork and Paste or American Songwriter, like that's not always the case.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
Especially with Pitchfork.
Yeah, and I mean, Pop Matters had it at number 9. Rolling Stone had it at number 7. Rough Trade number 18. Slant had it at 12. Spin at number 9. Uncut at number 6. Uprock's number 7. So I mean, this thing was not only on all these end of year lists, it was like really, really high.
Yeah.
So it's a great record. We should have had it on our program. It was so good. But it's Waxahachie.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Call me a misfit, king of the crows, out on the hills where the telephone poles hang in the silence till I got something to say. Who was I then? Who the hell am I now? I'll do whatever till I figure it out. Looking straight, the pain's gonna show me the way. Climb down the radio cloud. I remember what my name is now. I cut the water, lay the roadway down. You can call me Moses. Don't take whatever they took. It's just a way how we all get hurt. Thinking everybody's only look at all the pretty roses around.
So our number 4 album is Rustin Kelly, and it's the album Shape and Destroy.
And we voted on this one by committee.
Yes.
Just so you know.
It was
It
released.
ended up here on its own volition.
The reason we're laughing, folks, is because it was definitely in our top 20. We love this record. We love it a little more than Thad does, and Thad mixed up his numbers a little bit on the
Well,
vote.
you guys did opposites, so it's like number 20 was number 1.
Our scaling
so
system.
that because you were counting points, right?
Yes.
And I had this voted number 17, which was in my mind 17 of the top 20 records that I was given to vote from.
Yeah.
And so
The other end
So
of
instead
the
it
list,
became his number 3 record of the year, which boosted
which
it a little
put it
bit.
closer
on
to where
overall-
me and Dave.
this is
had
where
it.
I should have voted for myself, y'all.
Yeah, this is where Thad Cockrell's honorable mention comes in. So number 4
see?
is
See?
Rustin Kelly / Thad Cockrell.
That's right. Well,
I'm okay with that.
this is his second studio album. It released on August 28th, and it was our singer-songwriter album for September. And we are big fans of Rustin Kelly
Yeah, I
here at
love this
Blindside
dude.
Record Club. There's no big radio or charting history with this one. So, I mean, it's very easy. A lot of people could have missed this album.
He exists kind of like in that under the radar Nashville singer-songwriter, you know.
Probably back to like that thing we were talking about with indie rock. He's like indie country if there was this thing. He's considered country, which is weird because
calls himself.
this has elements of punk, emo, country, pop rock.
Because he grew up in
roots,
the
blues.
early 2000s like I did,
Yeah.
listening to bands like Saves the Day and the Get Up Kids and stuff like that, and now this is where he ended up.
Well, another like retail single that he released early is a song that I think is really a great song off this album. It's called Rubber.
Wait and see if the stones on my feet turn to rubble. On the open sea, float or sink, I am rubber, only rubber. And the man in the cave is quiet, smiling to himself. God, I wish I was quiet, but my head is full of bells. Something's always ringing, my suitcase always smells. Pour me a drink and then leave it, or the edge of wishing well. Or the edge of wishing well. Oh, can I bounce back? Oh, just lay flat, cathedral songs all night long, soaked in thunder.
So Gerard Christine, who's also known as Gerard K.
Jared K.
Jared K. He co-produces this album with Kelly. He also did Dying Star with him as well.
He's the producer man for Rustin Kelly.
You're probably not going to see this on a lot of end of year lists. Probably wouldn't have seen it in number 4 had it not been for
It might have been
Thad.
a 10
So-
or it might have not even made it
If
to our
we
top
find
10.
each other at a bar, he better send over a drink. You know what I mean? Make it a double.
You've been called out, Rustin.
Make it a double.
All right. Well,
I really did like his album before this. I actually listened to it and I really liked it a lot.
His EP
Dying Star.
and Dying Star are really great. The Halloween
Well, I know
EP.
you like his EP because it's all Halloween EP. That one
Halloween.
was good. I thought you were talking about the emo.
Oh
covers you
no,
did.
I forgot that
Emo
that's
Dirt.
out now. No, Dirt Emo. And
Dirt Emo.
It sounds like early Ryan Adams. Like it doesn't sound like it. It has the same emotionality of early Ryan Adams.
I will.
Rudy just said you hit that on the
I'll
nose.
100% agree with that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, which is awesome.
Vintage tea, brand new phone, high heels on, cobblestones. When you are young, they assume you know nothing. Sequin smile, black lipstick, sensual politics. When you are young, they assume you know nothing. But I knew you dancing in your Levi's, drunk under a streetlight. I knew you, hand under my sweatshirt, baby, kiss it better. And
So our number 3 album is Taylor Swift's Folklore. And I'll go ahead and tell you, before I even say anything else about this album, that Taylor Swift has always been an example for us of artists that we just don't carry in the store. And we don't, and I don't mean that as a negative thing to her. I just would always be like, well, you know, we're not going to put in our program something that you can find on the end cap at Target for the most part. Like, it's not a thing where we wouldn't do it if we totally love the record. It's just most of the time that's not what we carry.
I would say that it goes back to the idea of, you know, closest breeds.
Contempt.
Contempt.
Yeah.
She's really great. In a weird way, I think it sounds like, especially this one and the album that she just released, Evermore.
Evermore,
It sounds like a modern day Neil Young record.
They're phenomenal. I mean, she's sitting here at number 3 on our list for a reason.
Yeah, it's so good. I'm unabashedly a fan, and I really connect to it. And the songwriting and the melodies, I think in a lot of ways, it's easy to hate on her, but, you know, she's doing something really difficult so well that the work doesn't show. And I think if people really knew how hard it was to do what she's doing, like, nobody has any problems, like, talking about how incredible LeBron James is.
Right.
Like, nobody. Nobody looks at him and thinks, oh, well, yeah, but.
Yeah.
There's no but behind it.
Yeah.
What he's doing is incredibly hard, and
And the evidence, like,
No,
speaks for
I
itself.
think
I would
that's
say the same is true for Taylor Swift.
Yeah, that's spot on. Because and honestly, if you were listening to this album as well as Evermore that just dropped, I mean, she dropped 2 albums, surprise albums this year.
Yeah.
And if you can't listen to those,
Evermore's my favorite of the 2.
yeah, it's pretty darn good. And if you can't listen to those and be like, kind of step back and go, wow. I mean, you just either you don't like music or you're just not really being honest.
Or if, yeah, that's it. Or if you don't come to it with an open heart, right, and
Yeah.
really listen to for what it is, then I would say that it's your bias. But if you like great songwriting, and the production's really beautiful on
beautiful.
all of it. I mean, stunning.
Yeah, so this is her 8th album, and Evermore would have been her 9th. She did drop both of them. I mean, this one dropped in July. Evermore dropped in the last, like,
week or
2 weeks.
Yeah, I will tell you this. Anybody, including myself, that heard her first 2 records, which I couldn't stand, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like it. If you would have drawn a line to what she just released this year, nobody would have thought that she would have done that, including myself.
Yeah, and that says
Like
a lot.
ending up
That says a
on that
lot
other
about
end of
her.
the spectrum of
Yeah.
songwriting
Well,
and
and
stuff.
she's
Yes.
choosing that. She's
Of course she
seeking
is.
out the producer. She's seeking out the collaborator.
Because I
collaborator.
think she takes it really seriously.
Very serious. I think it says worlds about her as an artist.
I think she takes her music seriously. You know, sometimes I think she takes herself a little too seriously. And I think the hard trick to do is to take what you do seriously without taking yourself
so
seriously.
Right.
But nonetheless, I think both of the records that she released this year are really special.
We need to go ahead and just say right at the outset here that this album is produced by Aaron Dresner and Jack Antonoff.
Yep.
Aaron Dresner of The National and Jack Antonoff of both Fun and Bleachers.
Yep.
And she's been collaborating with him for a while.
Quite some time.
The Dresner connection is new, and it has made all the difference. I mean, to me, I mean, it
And
is.
he was kind of a, like, bigger architect on helping, like, get this thing together.
I had a really fun, wild night with Antonoff in L.A. when I was making my record.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, how much can you tell
He
us?
seems
on
like
mic?
a really great guy.
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is. He's just got this
It was
gleam in
really-
his eye
yeah.
right now.
Just
He's like,
a music
"I
fan,
can't
like
tell
a
you the
real,
story."
like, yeah. Although I don't like what he did with the Bruce Springsteen collaboration. I think, yeah.
I forgot about that.
Well, you know, this album debuted at number 1 on Billboard, like
Yep.
pretty much number 1 worldwide, like all Taylor Swift does.
Yeah.
Then Exile, which is a song that we're about to play, it went number 9 on AAA, and it was number 8 on the OCC. It was on other charts too, but it's just, I think, kind of seeing, if you had have told me 2 years ago that Taylor Swift would have a song go top 10 on AAA, I would have probably laughed at you.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. But it's an amazing song. It features Bon Iver. I think this song alone would make this album, should be in everybody's top 10 for the year just because of this song. But the whole album's great. This is Exile.
I can see you standing, honey, with his arms around your body, laughing but the joke's not funny at all. And it took you 5 whole minutes to pack us up and leave me with it, holding all this love out here in the hall. I think I've seen this film before, and I didn't like the ending. You're not my homeland anymore, so what am I defending now? You were my town, now I'm in exile seeing you out. I think I've seen this film before.
I can see you staring, honey, like he's just your understudy, like he'd get your knuckles bloody for me.
It says that it's, it has Bon Iver on it. And I wish, I know why they did that, because more people know Bon Iver.
Because you
and
recognize.
Yeah, and there's a certain, level of cred that you get from that. But it's really Justin Vernon, who's the lead singer of Bon Iver. But Bon Iver is truly a collaboration of artists. Like, it's the drummers, it's Mac Con, it's a bunch of guys.
Isn't S. Carey the
Yes.
drummer? Yeah.
Well, there's two.
Oh, there's two.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so Matt is from North Carolina.
Yes.
And plays with his Golden Messenger. So it's really a collaboration.
Yeah.
What Justin is doing, and he's leading it. So they're not playing on this track.
Yeah, it's just Justin.
It's just Justin.
Yeah. And his name, it carries a lot of weight nowadays, I feel like. But
well, he sounds
Bon Iver
phenomenal on this track for
Incredible.
sure. This track is unbelievable. I think it's possibly the song of the year. In my opinion, it's just one of the best songs that was released in 2020. The song that we opened this segment with is a song called Cardigan. That one went number 12 on AC and number 6 on the OCC on their singles chart. It's been nominated for multiple Grammys, and Folklore, the album, is actually nominated for Album of the Year.
This was the first song that her and Desner wrote, for the album too.
I think she's going to win a Grammy or two off this.
She should.
Yeah, I agree.
She will. I'm calling it now.
It's also on literally every end of your list. I don't care what magazine you read.
Right.
It's on 36 by my count. And it's high.
When you get the haters to love you, that's when you know you've done something.
Tell me about it.
You've truly arrived.
You're talking albumism number 5. Billboard number 1. Consequences Sound number 27.
Pitchfork gave it a 3 out of 10.
It reminds me of
I'm just kidding.
of my favorite show that I've seen in a long time, Ted Lasso. And
Dave
Ted
was just talking about wanting to watch
and he's
that.
talking to his sidekick, the assistant wrestling coach, or not the assistant wrestling coach, the assistant soccer coach. And anyways, they realize that everyone's really, that they don't really like him. Like Ted Lasso. And Ted Lasso is like, oh, well, if you think they're upset now, wait till they basically join our side. Then they're going to be really upset.
Wait till
And
they
I think that's what happens with Taylor.
That's great.
Even Slant had it at number 4. Up Rocks had it at number 1. Rolling Stone had it at number 1. Rolling Stone had it at number 1. This album is probably should be the number 1 album of the year. I was really torn on this one in Bruce Springsteen, personally.
Oh, wow.
And it's just for all the things that we've been talking about. This is not a Taylor Swift that you have seen before. Evermore is just doubling down, and that's the thing that you have to keep in perspective. She not only put out Folklore, she put out Evermore, all within 6 months.
Right.
And it's all in that same camp.
And completely just sending songs back and forth. This was all done remotely, I think, for everyone.
Yeah, I think everybody should stop renting studios, evidently.
Doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
They've been saying you're sophisticated. They're complaining, overeducated. You are saying all the words I'm dreaming. Say it after me. watching, climbing up your wall. Climbing up your wall. Don't go there, 'cause you never return. I know you think of me when you think of her, but then it don't make sense when you're trying hard to do the right thing, but with a record player. Then you did something wrong, you said it was great, and now you don't know how you could ever complain, because you're all confused, 'cause you want me to, but then you want me to do it the same as you.
Number 2, The Strokes' New Abnormal. You know, this album released on April 10th. It was their first number 1 on Top Rock Albums chart since 2011 release. And
Angles.
Angles, yeah. This album went number 1 on Top Rock. It was number 8 on Billboard 200. It was number 3 on the OCC. It's been a while since we had a Strokes record. This one was produced with Rick Rubin, which
one of your other favorite producers.
Another legendary guy I can't even wrap my head around because of the genres he spans. Wow.
I feel like I need to read everything that he's ever written, or like, you know, just to kind of soak up the knowledge that comes out of Rick Rubin's head or whatever. There might not be knowledge, but just like,
if there's a Mount Rushmore of producers, he's
up there, isn't he?
He's certainly on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this album. I think that song "Bad Decisions" is so good. You know, they borrowed that whole melody from Billy Idol. They actually gave him writing credit.
Yeah, he's on.
Know?
Yeah, I just I saw
like,
that.
Making bad decisions.
There it is.
You know,
with myself.
Yeah. And right.
Thad's gonna be on every podcast from now on. I can't do it without him.
No, and that's one of the things that kind of drew me into this record is there's a lot of stuff that I feel it's not quite new wave, but it's like adding in these like 80s little,
I think you could say new
textures.
wave.
It is. It actually, I think it would probably
almost qualifies new wave.
It is new wave. It's a
2020.
modern take on it, and the songwriting's great. There's incredible melodies.
Dude.
It's very rock and roll. The definition of rock and roll, if rebelliousness, meaning going against the grain, is a part of that definition, which it should be. If it isn't, then this record is definitely...
Absolutely. Some of my favorite songs to like sing too, At the Door, and then Ode to the Mets, the very last track. It starts out so weird with this like syncopated electronic beat, and then goes into the guitar riff, and you're just like lost. You're like, wait, these are two different tempos, and then it like resolves into just the guitar and goes into this beautiful song.
You know, I could play Why Are Sundays So Depressing on an acoustic guitar with the pedals still behind me, and you'd swear it's a country song.
Dude.
I mean, just the idea of Why Are Sundays So Depressing. I mean,
that's a song idea in
Can
and
we
of
see
itself.
a raise of hands if anybody's had that thought?
Dude, I have to take anxiety medication on Sundays
right.
to go to sleep. I do.
I do, in order not to go to church and feel bad about it.
I'm not even joking. Sunday nights, I'm like, well, time to get ready for bed.
Well, let's play that track that we talked about. Let's play Bad Decisions and let everybody hear that.
Jot down the lights I'm setting with you. Moscow, 1972. Always singing in my sleep.
I also listen to that song and the modern English, I stop the world and melt with you, right?
Yep.
Which is like such an incredible song. I was saying while we were listening to it, if you're having dinner with your girlfriend and she sends you a note across the table and she writes that on there, you go buy a ring the next day. And it's like such a
You're not
beautiful
gonna do
thing.
better than that, bro.
No, you're not going to do better than
You
that.
outkicked your coverage, and this is where it ends.
Yeah, and I just love them like unabashedly like wearing it on their sleeve. How much they love. I think what I like about it is you can hear how much they love all the music that inspired them to make music.
Made
when I listen
them
to
the
this
Strokes.
album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Yeah.
So the Strokes were on a few end of year lists, about 11 by my count.
That's not too
and
shabby.
on NME, they actually did very well. They went number 4. On Uprocks, they were number 50. There were on a few others that didn't really give number positions, but
Pitchfork gave it a 2.
Yeah, it's a great. Was it really number 2 on Pitchfork?
No.
Why do you keep saying that?
Because Pitchfork always hates everything that's good.
Well, it's phenomenal.
It's true, they do.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we usually point it out when they actually
get it right.
Yeah, because it's so like.
Well, just every time like a new great record comes out and you go straight there and you see less than a 7 or something, and it's just like cool.
Yeah, I think that's probably my only thing I don't like about editorial writing is when they actually do give it like a star or something. I'm just kind of like,
yeah.
Don't grade it.
Did you like it? Did you like it or did
But
you not?
sometimes the numbers thing does help at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
We graded a bunch of stuff.
Well, numbered it.
Yeah.
Someday I'm gonna live in your house up on the hill. And when your skinhead neighbor goes missing, I'll plant a garden in the yard. Then they're gluing roses on a flatbed. You should see it, I mean thousands. I grew up here till it all went up in flames, except the notches in the door frame. I don't know when you got taller. See our reflection in the water off a bridge at the Huntington. I hopped the fence when I was 17. Then I knew what I wanted.
So our number 1 record of the year
Drum roll.
for 2020.
Sorry, I was doing Christmas Vacation.
Oh my gosh. It's Phoebe Bridgers and the album Punisher. This album was released June 18th. And we had this in our Record of the Month program as a singer-songwriter in July. And I'll be honest, like I really like this record, but I was really surprised to see it continue to get voted higher and higher as we did these lists. I'm not disappointed. I just was surprised. And it is an amazing album, but it's sitting at our number 1.
Well, we all thought it was good enough, yeah.
Not good. I mean, the songwriting on it is absolutely stunning, but it's not just the songwriting, it's the production behind it. It's Tony Berg, it's Ethan Gruska. I mean, when you're surrounded by that kind of help, it allows you to confidently go where you might not go otherwise.
Could it push her to make a better record than she was going to make?
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
It pushes you. I don't know if it pushes you as much as it frees you.
Or frees you to make a better record.
Yeah, I mean, because you're around such trusted people. I mean, I made my record with Ethan played on my album and Tony produced it, right? And then you have Blake Mills across the hall, right?
Right.
And so
Hello.
when you're doing that, it frees you up to go someplace that you might not otherwise go, because you know that they'll help you get there in a way.
Like Resolve.
Yeah, they'll help you get there in a way that sounds great.
Yeah.
They know where to go where she's leading.
Yeah.
Well, we were even talking about on that song we just played, like Garden Song.
Yeah.
When that low vocal comes in, and just thinking about how our number 2 record with Taylor Swift and Aaron Dresner, he does a lot of that on that record, the low vocal thing.
Taylor doesn't make. I really don't think Taylor makes the records that she made this year without obsessing over the Phoebe Bridgers records.
And see, that right there, that comment is amazing to me. To think that indie rock artist Phoebe Bridgers, who even when we put this in our program in July, was relatively like only known in indie rock circles.
Well, she's incredible, and she's a real smart. I mean, she is, right? If you follow her on Twitter,
Dude,
she's very precocious. Yes, and I think I'm using that word right.
Yeah. And I do follow her on Twitter, and you're exactly right.
Yeah,
fake nudes.
Yeah, she's very
that's
smart.
Her Twitter handle.
She's very funny, but she's also has a real incredible sense of writing in a very human way.
Yeah,
and
insightful.
Very insightful.
Yep.
And you quickly, as the listener, place yourself in the song that you're listening to, which she's created. So she's created a world. What would that be in Artur, right?
Yeah,
right. Artur.
Yeah, and that's kind of like that the universal connection of her lyrics. Like you can see yourself there, you can imagine yourself, and that you've been in that situation before. You felt that emotion.
Yeah.
Well, the second single that she released was a song called Kyoto,
which is so good.
It's a great song. It broke top 20 in AAA. It was written with Morgan Nagler from the band Whispertown. It's an absolutely fabulous song. I'm really glad to see that it did well and kind of connect because, again, she is indie rock, and up to this point, like you haven't seen her at like a commercial format like AAA.
Yeah.
Well, I think, when people like try A&R people or whoever it is, they're like, oh, who's the next David Bowie, or who's the next Paul Simon? They think that they're going to look or sound like David Bowie or Paul Simon,
that person,
right?
Yeah.
But that song Kyoto, to me, is if Paul Simon was a young kid right now, he would write Kyoto. Yeah, it sounds like a modern take without trying to sound like Paul Simon.
Yeah.
Day off in Kyoto, got bored at the temple, looked around at the 7-Eleven. Then took the speed train, went to the arcade. I wanted to go, but I didn't. You called me from a payphone, they still got payphones. It cost $1 a minute to tell me you're getting sober. And you wrote me a letter, but I don't have to read it. I wanna kill you if you don't beat me to it. Dreaming through Tokyo skies, I wanted to see the world. Then I flew over the ocean, and I changed my
So, we talked about in July when we, covered this record, we talked about the fact that, we predicted, I would say, that this is going to be a breakthrough album for her. We just kind of felt by the time we got to the end of the year, everybody would be talking about it.
Right.
And, I mentioned that some of these other artists like Waxahachie and Taylor Swift have been on like massive amounts, 31, 36 editorial lists for the end of the year. So Phoebe Bridgers has been on 47. And she is number one on many of them. But even like major periodicals like Rolling Stone, she's number 10. Slant, she was number 8. 45, she was number 1. Billboard, number 15. NME, number 5. NPR, number 4. Pace, number 14. So I could go on and on. Literally 47.
Yeah.
In editorial
I think you should list them
column.
all in the position.
But the point is like this album is absolutely a break. Like the next Phoebe Bridgers album is going to be much, much more anticipated.
Yeah.
This one I think kind of came out. Here's just another release from this indie rock artist, and
just
here it is.
The best one of the year.
It is a phenomenal record, and if you haven't heard it, you really need to listen.
And she's incredibly smart for hiring Tony Berg. to produce that first album that everyone that broke through.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And
it's
that one
really,
that popped through in the indie rock circles for
but
sure.
with any other producer, I promise you, it sounds very different and it doesn't make the same impact.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony pushed her to do some things that she probably wouldn't have done with any other producer. He's worked on Peter Gabriel records. He worked on the first Amy Mann record. Go back and listen to the first Amy Mann record, and then listen to that record, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a connection.
hear this.
You
Yeah.
can hear it, and it's not taken away from Phoebe. It's really it's like speaking to her brilliance of picking someone that wasn't like a hot commodity in the producer world, right?
But a great producer is gonna do that to your art.
And maybe she at that time she might not have had all the options that she does now.
Sure.
Which what is they say necessity is the mother of invention, right?
That's right.
So
You're right.
I think the two of them made something really incredible, and Tony manages Ethan Gruska, and they're all really it's a close,
tight-knit
it's a
little
very
community.
tight knit community. It's a really high wall to scale to get in there or somehow to get in, and you're hearing her, but you're hearing a lot of incredible people help her make the sound that she's making.
Well,
in the same way that Casey Musgraves doesn't make that record without Ian Fitchick and Daniel Tashin.
Well, and to Phoebe's credit, she's continued to seek out artists that kind of push her in places that maybe she wouldn't get. Like even with Connor Oberst and Better Oblivion Community Center. I mean, that is just not something that you would have expected her to. I mean, those songs didn't have another place.
Yeah, she's really brave.
Yeah.
And not precious, really. which is saying something.
Somewhere in Germany, but I can't place it. Man, I hate this part of Texas. Close my eyes, fantasize. 3 clicks and I'm home. When I get back, I'll lay around. Then I'll get up and lay back down. Romanticize a quiet life. There's no place like my room. But you had to go. I know. Like a wave that crashed and melted on the shore. Not even the burnouts are out here anymore. And you had to go. I know. Out in the park we watched the sunset, talking on a rusty swing set. After a while you went quiet and I got mean. I'm always pushing you away from me.
Well, that is our best vinyl of 2020. Don't forget, if you want to hear us count down the entire top 20, you can go to Blind Tiger Record Club podcast on New Year's Eve, and you can listen to part 1. Part 2 goes live New Year's Day. Thad, thank you so much for coming in and being part of this and for voting and having a voice in all of this great music.
Thank you for having me. I'm sure I'll never be asked back, but it was
that was
a
the
lot of
last
fun.
show,
It was a lot of fun.
Well, if you want your record in the top 20, I don't think we can ask you back.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not voting for it.
Well, thanks again, man. I really appreciate it. If you want to find out more about any of these albums, head to blindtigerrecordclub.com. I'll go ahead and tell you this first as listeners of the show. We will have our annual Best Of sale starting January 1st. So it's going to run the entire month of January, and you can start your year off right by snagging some of the best from 2020. It's all on sale all month. So head to the store and check out that sale. It will start January 1st. Don't forget, if you sign up for a membership at the blindtigerrecordclub.com, you can pick from our 4 styles every month. We have great ones in January: the Kinks, Aaron Frazier, the White Stripes, Jim Croce. I also want to mention how amazing Nashville has been in stepping up to help Lightning 100 on the Save Our Airways campaign. Like, Music City stepped up in a span of about 3 weeks and completely met the financial goal to keep one of the best radio stations in the country running. And I honestly think that's absolutely amazing and incredible.
Yeah,
and
especially this year.
Yeah, what all of you guys did is unbelievable. So I would love to encourage you to take that same spirit of giving and really look at our sponsor, World Vision. Click on the World Vision button at blindtigerrecordclub.com and find out more just about World Vision.
Yep.
Anything you can give will be used to fight the spread of and impact of COVID-19 worldwide, but also here in the U.S. So please be a hidden hero. Donate today. Send your receipt of $25 or more to vinyl@blindtackerrecordclub.com, and we will send you a $10 gift card that you can use for anything in the store.
We'll hook it up.
Please follow the podcast, like us, leave reviews and comments, tell your friends about the show, email Lightning100, stay up to date on all that we are doing by signing up for our email list at the website. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Most importantly, keep coming back. We're about to take a break from our on-air show, and the podcast will actually only probably have one episode a month for the next couple of months, which will basically be our Record of the Month program.
Yeah.
But we'll take a little break. We'll hopefully come back around March or April. So stay tuned. We'll be back. We want to thank Finnegan Bell for the use of our song For a Dying Man as our show's theme song. Lewis Bryce for the use of his song Blessed for our World Vision spot. And thank you to Lightning 100 for always supporting local art and events and even shows like ours. This station is so important for our city, and it's been such an honor to be here on the air for the last year.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
So Happy New Year, everyone. Have a blessed 2021. And until next time, keep the wax spinning.